some major developing news. The United States of America is now conducting an investigation to show how the Somalis in the United States of America in Minnesota were stealing government money, and all this money was being sent to one African country known as Kenya, where they were making a lot of progress and where they were buying a lot of property and businesses from this money that they were swindling the United States of America government. According to reports, these people opened hundreds of schools, hundreds of daycares, and so many businesses that were being funded by the government. We are talking about $9 billion that has already been swindled by the Somalis living in the United States of America. All these daycares, all these schools had no children and they were receiving funds from the government. One school which had registered over 102 students was found not to have even a single student, and when they were asked, they are closing the doors and they don't want to speak to anybody. Even the people who are working on these daycares say that this was a total scam, and this is why the United States of America is very serious about the Somalis living in the United States of America, saying that they have taken a lot of money and all this money cannot be seen where it is going. According to reports, these people are buying a lot of properties. They are very rich in Kenya, and many people were wondering where they are getting all this money, and they are not even working. It is now turning out that these people were having one of the biggest scam, using even their representative in the government in the United States of America, Ilhan Omar. You should watch that documentary and see.
I've just heard one voice, but across Kenya and across Africa, many voices are now rising over a story that is no longer just about courtrooms in America, but about what happens when illicit money quietly enters African economies. Tonight, Voice of Africa brings you reactions, concerns, and questions from Kenyans at home and abroad about alleged foreign fraud money, real estate investments, and what this could mean for Africa's future. This is not about targeting communities. This is about protecting African economies, African youth, and African integrity. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear is shaping a new conversation across our continent.
Something has happened in Minnesota, US. It almost sounds like Minnesota. Anyway, you get it. Somalis from Somaliland have been caught by mkono mrefu wa Trump, defrauding the US government, faking documents, medical aid, saying their kids are autistic, faking all the stuff, siphoning money from there, billions in trillions of US dollars, and kumbe they have been funding Al-Shabaab activities. Some of these monies is being traced all the way to Somalis in Kenya. This would explain, and this is true, why we've always wondered where these guys get their wealth from, why they are always working with dollars, unexplainable monies, and how they have a way of always just getting legit documentation and Kenyan passports and IDs because of
right now, the FBI are now targeting Kenyan properties worth 39 billion Kenya shillings, which are suspected to be proceeds of what you will call the Minnesota scam. Of course, you understand that there was a scam going on in Minnesota, and we'll be giving you more stories on that very soon as they unfold. Stay tuned.
Billions of dollars were frauded from Minnesota, United States, and invested in Nairobi, Kenya. Major breaking news. United States authorities are literally planning to move to Kenya and seize properties that were purchased using the money that was frauded in Minnesota, whereby, according to reports, we are getting the money bought a jet, luxury apartment and resorts across Nairobi. And according to reports that this particular money were for the taxpayers, whereby the Somalians in the United States were actually saying that they have daycares that are taking care of their kids, and according to reports and investigation and everything, there are no kids in those daycares. Everything has been exposed. And this is how Kenya is literally linked with this particular Minnesota fraud. Number one, Kenyan passports were literally sold to the Somalians, whereby the Somalians went ahead and married their relatives to actually secure the United States entry, whereby they actually ran massive housing and health care fraud scenes in Minnesota, whereby the money was actually stolen and packed in Kenya through real estates. And this is why the United States authorities are ready to land in Kenya for further investigation.
Soon and very soon, the American government and the FBI will be landing in Kenya. Yes, and they will be coming to arrest some Somalis who frauded the American government of 250 billion US dollars. You understand? So these Somalis kumbe wanakuwaga fraudsters. Unaona, wamejenga manyumba refu refu, wamejenga ploti zingine mingi mingi, kumbe hii pesa inakuwaga pesa ya kuoshwa ama pesa ya kuibwa. That is what is now turning out. Walidanganya the government of America huko Minnesota that wanataka pesa ya kuenda kusaidia watu. Kumbe hizi pesa waliziturn na wakainvest into real estate. So let us wait for the American government and the FBI to come and collect these crooks and take them back to where? To America, because I know they'll be charged in America.
This matters far beyond any single country, because when questionable money enters African cities, it quietly reshapes entire economies. What you're hearing here connects directly to the rising cost of living across African capitals. These flows of money don't stay on paper. They change housing markets, land prices, and who can afford to live in our cities. This is one of the hidden forces behind why young Africans are being pushed farther away from city centers. Behind every expensive apartment block, there is a financial story, and not all of those stories are clean. This is how silent money movements become visible social problems. When capital enters without transparency, ordinary families pay the price. This is why conversations like this are no longer optional for Africa.
Well, being Somalian right now is like having a target on your back. And right now, the United States is allegedly going to come to Kenya to get back the property and the land, or the apartments that they think that they were proceeds of crime, basically proceeds of fraud that happened back in the United States by Somalians, right? Mostly Somalians, not just Somalians. I must make this clear. And to be honest, I don't know what to think about it. And just in case you didn't know, on top of the Minnesota fraud, on I think, was it health insurance fraud? On top of that, the ones that happened, a couple of weeks ago. Right now, there's a new accusations on mostly Somalis regarding daycare fraud, right? So allegedly, I don't know if this is true, but from what I've read online, allegedly some daycares are running under the pretense of hosting children, when in reality there's no children being hosted. I don't know if this is true or not, but it doesn't matter. My point is, currently being Somali and being Somalian has been associated with mostly fraud and scamming with regard to government funds, right? And right now, the fault on scamming has, the Indians, previously it was Indians and Nigerians who were being blamed for being scammers, but right now it seems like the narrative is shifted, and it's mostly Somalis. And now let's go back to where Kenya has been the target of U.S. authorities. On one hand, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the fact that thousands of Somalis and Somalians have decided to choose Kenya as an investment hub, right? But at the same time, I don't want Kenya to be used as an investment hub for money that has been fraudulently acquired abroad, because that paints us in a negative picture, which is not good, right? America is one of our greatest allies, right? Every year, thousands of Kenyans move to America, and still in America, there's more than 100,000 Kenyans, and these Kenyans send back home billions of dollars, right? This year, we've surpassed 1 trillion shillings in remittances, and more than half of that comes from America. So we don't want to jeopardize that. So I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't know if they're going to actually come to Kenya and seize this property, or I don't know. But it's just not looking good to be Somalian right now. It's not looking good. And for all the, and I know it's not most Somalis are not actually involved in fraudulent activity. But for those who are not, it's important to distance yourself from it. Don't defend fraud, because that paints the whole community in a negative light, which is something you don't want to do. So I wish you guys nothing but the best, but I hope those who are coming among this stop.
Here is the truth we must hold on to. Two wrongs do not make a right. Let us listen to this guy down here, then I will respond after he has spoken, and let us all judge together. Thank you.
So some Kenyans who are not of Somali origin are spreading rumors and propaganda kuhusu ile scam ya COVID-19 huko USA Minnesota, kwamba ati Wasomali wameiba pesa ya Amerika wanaleta Nairobi kujenga apartments. Ati USA sasa wamekujia hizo apartments. Wacha nikwambie bro kitu moja. The American government is as corrupt as the Kenyan government. Na hakuna mahali wezi wawili watashindana. Huyu ni mjanja, huyu ni mjanja. Hakuna siku those properties will be repossessed, because it will be very difficult to first trace them and then prove it that the funds used to build those buildings actually are proceeds of that scam. Wasomali wanafanya business legit. Hata wenye wanatoka Amerika wanakuja na pesa yao kujenga hapa, na wanakuja hapa kununua plot. And by the way, Somali real estate developers, wateja wao wengi sana wanaotegemea ni Wasomali wenzao tu. Hakuna Msomali ambaye anajenga properties akiwa anajua hakuna Msomali atanunua. Priority ni number 1 Msomali. Mwenye anajenga ni Msomali, mwenye ananunua ni Msomali. So hiyo propaganda hakuna mahali itatupeleka. Hata kama tumeiba pesa ya Amerika, kwani Amerika wametuibia pesa ngapi kutoka Afrika? Wachana na hata Somalia. Wameiba dhahabu ngapi? Wameiba diamond ngapi? Minerals wametoka nayo ngapi? Hebu kweni na akili mzuri ba. Hii si wakati wa...
Yes, my friend. Yes, slavery, colonialism, and theft of African resources were real evils. No serious Christian or honest person should ever call that progress. It was injustice, and it wounded many generations. And I repeat again, but here's the truth we must hold on to. Two wrongs do not make a right. Historical injustice does not justify modern fraud. Stealing in the past does not give moral permission to steal today, even if the money is used to help Africa or one's own community. Yes, corruption exists in the West, in Africa, in Kenya, and also in the US. But corruption in government does not cancel personal accountability. Every individual still answers morally and legally for their action. Loving and prioritizing your own people is not wrong. Every community does that, but loyalty must be built on integrity, hard work, and lawful meal, not crime. Justice must be consistent. If we excuse fraud today because of yesterday's injustice, we destroy the moral foundation we claim to stand on. And as a Christian and also as a people of conscience, we must reject both historical oppression and modern corruption without tribalism, without excuse, and without double standard. So ndugu yangu, na kukwambia kwamba yenyewe hii kitu ambayo ilitokea pande ya Minnesota tuweze kuichunguza, na pia tuweze kuwa waangalifu sana, kwa sababu wizi si nzuri mbele ya Mwenyezi Mungu. Asante.
Somali people, you must tell us where you're getting this money. I was in Isli. I went to Isli for a business meeting with a client at the BBS Mall, guys. And the beautiful high-rise apartments under construction I saw in Isli. People have money in Isli. Somali people, please tell us the secret. After finishing my business meeting with the client from the BBS Mall, I decided to take a walk around Isli. And I can tell you, every street in Isli right now has more than 10 buildings under construction. You will see these buildings covered with nets and under construction and not yet complete, or at least recently completed. High-rise apartments, I'm talking about high-rise apartments. That is apartments with 10 floors and above. I mean, every street. And remember, Isli has 12 streets. First street, second street, all the way to 12. And every street has like 10 high-rise apartments under construction or recently finished construction. I mean, guys, I decided to take a walk around Isli so I can show you this, man. Somali people have money. These people have money. I don't know what they do, how they do it. I think they're trying to make Isli a city of its own in Nairobi, man. If you come to Isli directly without going through Nairobi CBD, man, you may think this is Nairobi, man. You may think this is the CBD, guys. Like, just this street alone, you can see over 5 buildings, high-rise, covered with nets, meaning under construction. Look, there's one here, there's this one here, there's another one there, that is 5. And it's this, all these streets all over Isli have at least 6, 7, 8, or even 10 buildings, high-rise buildings under construction, man. Isli, man, you have to tell us where you are getting this money, Somali people. What? And one thing I've realized, guys, if you want to do mjengo, construction, or your fundi or stuff like that, go to Isli. Utawai kosa kazi. You will always get a job. Because there's building every corner under construction. Where?
This is for entertainment purposes only, so family. Am I the only one who's a little disturbed at the possibility that the divided states could actually own half of Nairobi? Like, have you guys been following the Minnesota tax heist? Because, the thing is, okay, when I was in Nairobi recently, I was going around just the city, doing things, fun times, and I was just, like, shocked at the number of Somalis I saw around. And no hate, no shade for Somalis, you know what I mean? And, like, I went to Arboretum a couple of times. It would be, like, 10 Kenyans and, like, 200 Somali women or whatever. And maybe 20 Somali guys. But I was just like, what's going on? And guys are like, no, a lot of people have moved into apartments nowadays. So this is one of the only parks, etc., etc. Guys were just, and I was discussing it with Nairobians. And then I went to BBM and Isli and stuff. And I was like, what? It was insane. Like, that mall and just the infrastructure. If you were in Isli 5 years ago and you went today, you'd be like, what? And then I remembered those stories we used to hear back in the day. If you ever had a rela who lived in South B or South C and owned their house, and how the Somalis came and they would offer them like 60, 70 million for a house that was maybe at the most worth like maybe 15 million. And so, like, guys were always talking about, like, how they're coming after our neighborhoods. There's even a pastor. This one that did the Nene, what's his name? Kula. Pastor Kula had also warned Kenyans about how, people need to keep their homes and there's going to be an invasion. You know how our pastors are, all the Muslim spirits, what. Turns out that all this stuff was probably bought with, a lot of it, let's say like that, allegedly, was bought with taxpayers or, I don't know, U.S. citizens' funds. And now the divided states is coming back for their property, and apparently they're going to start seizing some of these properties in South B, South C, Isli, Diani, most of Nairobi, that were built or were bought with these funds. So, as in, if you see this thing clearly, I return to the question that I started with, family. What if Trump's America actually owns half of Nairobi?
The United States is respected for opening its doors to migrants, for giving opportunity, and for building one of the most diverse societies on earth. That generosity is a strength, but generosity must be protected. When public funds are abused, it hurts the very families they were meant to serve. And when illicit money flows into African cities, it quietly damages housing, jobs, and opportunity for African youth. This is not about hate, it is about accountability. If you believe Africa deserves clean development, honest investment, and protected institutions, tap the like button so more people can stay informed. Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments and subscribe to Voice of Africa for calm, responsible, Pan-African reporting. Until next time, stay informed, stay grounded, and always stand for Africa's future.